Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Left of Greg podcast. As usual, I am your host, Brian Marin, and we have with us today, again, Greg Williams, who, of course, the podcast is affectionately named after. It's just going to be the two of us today, and the topic of the day is, what is situational awareness? So that's kind of a blanket term we've heard thrown out. Everyone uses it. Not a lot of people define it very well, in my opinion. Everyone says it. Hey, you got to be situationally aware. You got to keep your head on a swivel. If you see something, say something. But there's actually a lot more to it than just a slogan or telling someone a tagline to do that, because it takes a little bit of skill, it takes a little bit of knowledge, takes a little bit of training and education. But most people are very, very capable of getting to that level of advanced situational awareness to where they can make themselves safer, their family, their community, and no matter what level you're at. If you're just an average person on the street, you can learn a lot by understanding some of these concepts and situational awareness, air quotes there for those who are just listening. And or if you've been running the streets for a long time, you're a seasoned law enforcement officer, you're a military operator, or a telephone operator, however you decide to use that overused term of operator, you can learn a lot, right? We're going to move that needle for you forward, right? We'll increase that situational awareness, no matter where you fall in line already with your skill sets. That's how I like to say it. But I guess we'll start off, Greg. Unless you got to shout out to anyone or need anything, we could just go ahead and talk about it. So in your kind of street definition, or 30,000 foot view, or on the street, however you want to take it, what is situational awareness? When people use that term, how would you define situational awareness?
Yeah, good talking to you, Brian. Shout out for Ray K, everybody. Prayers for him.
Oh, yeah.
He's going through some aggressive chemo. Thursdays are his day. So just if you just put it in front of your head. Shout out also for Brian wearing red on Friday. Thanks for that, Brian.
Always.
I think our listeners and viewers know what those mean. So I think situational awareness and situation awareness are two parts. If Martin Woolley was on the call right now, he'd already be complaining about it. Why can it be two things? Situation awareness is the awareness now forecasting likely events that are going to occur. So when you're playing what-if games in your patrol car or in EMS rig or on your way to school or wherever you're going to go to dinner with your family, what you're doing is conducting predictive analysis and trying to plan game the game on what you might encounter and therefore have things ready. So you're aware of the situation, situation awareness, okay? Situational awareness is that program running in the back of your mind constantly when you're walking around your house, or you get up and you hear something in the middle of the night, or you're parking your car and that guy's getting a little too close, or are those headlights the same headlights that were following us? So situational awareness is in the moment, where situation awareness is what you can plan for. And so I just threw these items on my desk when you called and said, hey, let's do a pod, which Brian has wanted to do, by the way. So every floor in Rogue Manor West has the same bug-out cut.
Your home, by the way, for
the home,
no,
and
Rogue Manor West. So
everybody from all through history, whether Shell and I were coppers, we always published our home. So come get some, and it's not like we hide it.
Rogue Manor West is a throwback too. That term Rogue Manor comes from someone very specific. So.
That's not mine. That's from a good friend of mine. Yeah, and I stole it from Dick.
From old Demo Dick.
Yeah, Richard Marchenko, a good valued friend, longtime acquaintance. Shout out back to Domino Farms days for Dick Marchenko. And so he's the original Rogue Manor, and the most sincere form of flattery, Rogue Manor West. I try to do the same debauch fest out here that he did. And so the idea is that on each floor, in previous podcasts, we talked about it, having the rechargeable SL20X flashlights, having different stuff. Well, in my travel kit, always, and if it's not, then as soon as we land on the ground, we always buy it, and you know that, because the first place we go is Walmart.
Yep.
Always having a little aluminum body flashlight. They're a couple of bucks. LEDs are bright as hell. You can use it a Uwara stick or a Kubotan defensive impact tool. and the way it was intended by lighting stuff up.
You can also use it to light up the area you're in, Greg.
Which is amazing. A knife, a small pocket knife that has a good clip. I like bright colors. You know that because I can't find anything anymore. And having one or buying one as soon as we're on the ground and taking it out of the package as we're walking up to the counter and making sure that we check out with it. Never has to be reloaded. Absolutely silent. Works in a variety of situations. Door wedge. There's a door wedge on each floor that's accessible. The greatest thing about the door wedge is it also can be used as a defensive impact tool. If you can't afford one because they're cheap as hell, you can make one or go to the local college or maybe high school in the wood shop. And of course the tourniquet. So for every floor that we have the same emergency equipment, and every time that we travel, we do, you know that, a little check to make sure that everybody is up in case we get separated. Why? Because you can't predict all outcomes, but you know that you should have a number of ways to start a fire if you're going to go fishing or on a survival outing. You know that you should have some moleskin in case your gosh damn pants or your boots rub you the wrong way when you're out on that hike. Certain things that you can do to prepare for an event mean that you're better prepared when the event hits. Why? Because the minute that you smell smoke, your amygdala inhibits your prefrontal cortex and starts your gray matter going, what do we do? There's two definite and very divisive things that are going on. One, cerebral cortex fighting for control because PFC is gone now. The incoming chemical stopped it. Visual field is pumping out information. Smell, sight, sound are coming in. So cerebral cortex, the big dome of the brain, is saying, what are my alternatives? Okay, should I call the fire department? Do I need to get to my car? And your amygdala is running full speed and going fight, flight, freeze, focus, where are my threats, orientation. So while that's going on, you need to be doing something. And if you're not situationally aware and it surprises you, nanoseconds to seconds to minutes are going by and you've lost the gift of time and distance. So situation awareness and its brother situational awareness or sister means that your anticipation of likely upcoming events is commensurate with the situation you're going into. The lessons learned about BP and his anger with the wrong footwear on an airplane. That speaks directly into it. Having somebody at the side of the road that ran out of fuel. How can that happen? Right. Unless you're in a stolen sled, unless there's some catastrophic EMP that took out your fuel gauge, how can those things happen? Yet we see it all the time. And what do predators do? What do cougars do in the wild? Do they go up against the biggest elk and try to fight it and maybe chip a tooth or get their jaw dislocated by a hoof? No, they go for the weak, the lazy, the slow. So your lack of SA, capital S, capital A, is pushing out a smell to all predators around you. And it doesn't have to be a predator like Brian. Don't think it's somebody that's going to kill you. It could be somebody that victimizes you. Those people with the soap in the open air mall. Remember when we were out in San Diego together and the people come out and, try the fish scale soap. It's going to, exfoliate the hell out of here, whatever it is. Yeah.
Fish scale
remember
soap.
That? So what they're doing is they're scanning the crowd because they're going to, I don't know what the hell it is, but they're scanning the crowd because they want to make some money. And who do you think they look at? You lock eye contact.
You're in.
You adjust your orientation, they're on you. They're on you like a cheap suit, like this suit. And the idea is that you could become embroiled in a situation that you didn't want to be because you failed to anticipate it. And I don't mean always fail to anticipate danger, although in our world, we fail to anticipate danger first. Every year, methane gas builds up, and there is some person that goes out to work on the farm and is overcome by the fumes, confined space entry. Every year, their son or daughter comes out, sees him down there, goes down and dies. Then mom comes down and it's a tragedy. The whole family is lost. Why? Because they failed to anticipate the likely danger. The EMS guy that gets electrocuted because he rushes to the car and doesn't say, hey, why is that guy down? So that's why we do this. Why do you do a pre-combat check, Brian? Why do you do those preparatory motions before you go. It's all a function of essay.
Okay, so kind of let me tell me if
I
this
was out
makes
here.
sense. Yeah,
Right.
tell me if that makes sense. So situational awareness is just you've come up you're putting in some type of planning process for likely contingencies, right? Like you said, okay, I'm going on a long car ride. Well, what's the first thing we're going to do on a road trip is, yeah, you top off on gas always, right? So we may need these things. I got to make sure there's the spare tire is good. I got to make sure I have the jack in there. I got to make sure these certain things, or just basic planning. So you're saying that's kind of a good way to understand what situational awareness is?
It's precisely. But what I got to tell you is it's not just a pace plan, Brian. It's not just a beginning, middle, and or an end. For example, you drive much more than you walk nowadays. When's the last time that you checked your valve stems on your tires? Checking the amount of ridge you have left on your tire, the tread that you have, is key in mountain terrain. You know that the first few seconds of rain bring up all those oils and everything on the roadway. So that's a dangerous time. Pulling out into an intersection when the light goes green. I see this all the time. I'm the guy that's not texting.
Yep.
Okay. So what I do is I do a 3 count, 1001, 1002, 1003 before I leave the light. And boy, does that infuriate the people behind me. But what I'm doing is I'm listen,
looking
and
left,
feel
yeah,
before I pull into that intersection. Okay. And guess what? I'm getting older, so my peripheral vision isn't as good as it once was. So I have to make sure that before I enter the intersection's clear. And you're saying, yeah, but the green light says it's clear. No, it doesn't. It's just like that eyeball witness that says, yeah, I saw the crash. And you ask them, what did you see? And they go, well, I heard the sound.
yeah.
And then I looked, I didn't see anything. So
Right.
predictive analysis and situational awareness are both sides of that same coin, Brian. That means that you're anticipating likelihood in everything that you do, some instantaneously. That means, like, as I assume a new baseline, I walk into a room that I haven't been, I have to shut up for a minute and see where the exits are. I have to be quiet for just a second mentally and make sure that I see who the key players are. Are any of them waste aware? Do I have anybody that's giving off the mission focus or predatory looks? Those are functions that you do all day long. By the time you get home, you can't be hyper vigilant, you can't be hyper alert. But
Right.
the time you get home and you're turning on the alarm system, you're going to sit back and watch Hogan's Heroes or whatever the heck you do at night. Brian's kind of goofy that way, so I don't know what he does when he's at home. But when you do that, you should be exhausted, and you should be exhausted from constantly sampling the baseline. And situational awareness or situation awareness before you go out of the house means you're throwing a rock in a pond everywhere you go. When you go into that 7-Eleven, you're asking the counter clerk, hey, Madge, how's business? Why? Because you're measuring, is something different today outside of the baseline that wasn't there yesterday? Just like an EMS is going to ask you, is the pain worse now, or was it worse a few minutes ago? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? So that constant baseline sampling is a function of situation awareness and situational awareness. So whether you're in the moment or whether you're about to go somewhere, Sean Clements, our dear friend
Yeah.
that's on the call all the time, just dropped Mac off at college. What's the first thing that they did? They walked the campus. They tried to look at the areas. They said, "Here's the exit." They rehearsed with her. Mac hated that, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
but as a daughter going away from college, it was incumbent upon them. When you were on Pendleton or close to the flag on the East Coast, does the Marine Corps not have a list of places that you can't go when you go out for the weekend?
Yeah.
It has places, hey, don't go here. There's a scam. Don't go there.
Those are
that,
those are usually the places I immediately went to. Hey, these bars are off limits, so I'm going there because something good
you
is
have
happening.
those tats to this day, and
Yeah, I know, right?
No, but think about that for a minute. Think about the logic behind that. Think about that moto meeting at the final formation just before you go on the weekend libo, where somebody's telling you, get your head out of your butt, start thinking now, engage your brain before you engage your feet. Look at the area. Does it look safe? All kinds of people die over Labor Day weekend, which it is, and be safe out there, because they want to jump off the balcony into the pool. What did they fail to do? No situation awareness and poor situational awareness. So when we talk about advanced critical thinking and advanced situational awareness, what we're talking about being able to do it at the speed of trust with your own brain. You're actually trusting your brain to smell, taste, feel your environment, your visual field, to bring in those chunks and looking for danger constantly, whether you're driving, whether you're standing still, whether you're at the Starbucks getting a coffee.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's been lost. I mean, we talked about it. There's no obviously no stopping, technological advances and how reliant we become on those. But we because of those distractions in our environment constantly coming at us, especially from our phones that we're walking around with, most people are staring at them, is you're not what a lot of it comes down to, in a simplified term, is almost just, hey, you got to kind of live in the moment that you're in right now, right?
Yes.
So like you said, I walk into a 7-Eleven, it's that look, listen, smell. I'm not staring at my phone. 7-Elevens or gas stations get robbed constantly in the U.S. You're going to walk right into a crime in place and not even realize it until it's too late. And that's what happens in a lot of these different situations where now people have, I think because of a lot of events that happen in the U.S., a lot of school shootings, church shootings, mass shootings at Walmart, at the Walmart we've been to in El Paso several times.
Yep. So where we bought all our gigs.
Yeah, right.
All
right
our material
down there
for training.
Yep. It's people are starting to realize, okay, I have to be more situationally aware. I got to train to put the phone down, and people are coming up with great. All right, these are good, easy ways to, hey, look where you're parking. Take a look around before you get out of the vehicle and put it in park. Put your phone down. But these are just basic skills, basic concepts that anyone can learn how to do. So how do I take those because that's intuitive, right? We realize, oh, you know what? I'm not really paying attention to my surroundings and the people around me. Okay, I need to do that. All right, so now if I do that, if that's just a basic understanding of situational awareness, of being in the moment that I'm in, recognizing the people that I'm in, giving a little eyebrow flash to everyone that walks by just to say hello, because you're sampling your baseline, you're determining likely outcomes from those reactions off of people. Then what is that next level of, now how do I take that knowledge, or how do I take those experiences of doing that and being in the moment and being more aware? Okay, I'm going to start looking at my environment. Well, now what do I look for? Or how do I look? What am I supposed to do to get to the next level where now I can conduct predictive analysis, right? How do I go from just observing my environment and being like, all right, I'm doing what these guys are telling me. I'm looking around at all these people, but what am I supposed to look for? And so, go ahead.
You just opened up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
So let's try to put some corners on it for a second. So I want to tell you very briefly 2 incidents from my previous life. So I was with one of the Jack Webb of FTOs before there was an FTO, field training officer.
Field training officer. This is when you're in law enforcement.
A long time ago, and he'll remain nameless. But as we were driving up on a call, the call went out for a 1016, which is a domestic in 10 codes, and domestic in progress. You never know what you're going to get into. And he casually looked at me and he said, yeah, I know this. It's an old Polish family outside of Detroit. You had Hamtramck, which is a very set, dyed-in-the-wool type of area where many people of Polish descent had emigrated and immigrated, and they lived there. And luckily, my FTO oblas the lingo, and so he spoke the language, and he just fires a burst message my way and says, yeah, I know the family, it's going to be the same type of thing. They get a little vodka in him, they get a little drunk after he comes back from the auto plant, and he's giving me this stuff, and so I'm going through trying to do the log sheet, trying to update on the radio, trying to do this, and still there's no level of danger anticipated because I'd been on thousands of domestics that were just people yelling. My mom and dad did domestics every night when I came home. So rarely did they rise to the level of a cop involvement, but that did happen. And it usually happened around the holidays or something. So I was that kid that grew up with that. As we pulled up, first thing that hit my mind is we're going right to the driveway of the residence. And all this stuff about park down the street, listen and smell the environment and take a look and make sure that you've got the right, all that stuff that you learn in the academy, all that stuff that's in some of the great texts that are out there, the great training that you can go to, was abandoned because complacency. I've been here before. Don't worry about this. I've got the lead. And as the front of the car started rising up in the driveway, the woman came out onto the sidewalk side. There's a little steps that went down, one towards the garage, one towards the street with a little wrought iron railing. And she came out in a house coat, nothing on but her house coat, hair undone, older lady, older than I am right now. And she was just yelling at us, this, that, and the other, all in a stream of Polish. So I had no idea, but from the body language, I could discern exactly that she wasn't happy, and whoever was right behind her coming out of the house wasn't happy. The man steps out on the porch. He has a double-barrel shotgun, unloads both barrels into her back, and
Oof.
she collapses in front of us as we're not even in the driveway yet. He turns, walks to the garage, reaches back and pulls the garage door down, one of those big spring-loaded
Yep.
garage doors. And as we're now getting out of the car and trying to assess the situation, unloads both barrels on himself. The timing was critical because the entire thing from pulling up into the driveway till having two dead people was under a minute.
Right.
I would venture that the first critical moments were 30 to 35 seconds. That's situation awareness. We knew better. Even though I was the rook, I should have said something. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Right.
But I sat and watched. Sometime later after that, in Macomb, not going to get any more specific than that, a great friend of ours and a couple of people went to do a involuntary commitment on a person to St. Joe's, which is a mental hospital. A couple of the officers talked to the officer that I know very well and said, we're there all the time. Don't worry about this guy. He's not a fight or anything. They went up on the porch and they were executed when the subject became violent and was armed with a gun and didn't want to go. You don't have to be in those situations. You might be returning a flippin' book to your local public library. What you have to do is look, listen, feel, smell, sample, taste the environment. Does it seem like it always did? Am I being forced to walk in the street rather than on the sidewalk because some obstruction? If there is an obstruction, how did that obstruction get there? Are these cars parked and are these cars running? Why would that car be running left wheel to curb as I approach this business? Could something be going on inside that haberdashery that I'm not paying attention to? Now, don't become overwhelmed by events. Simply slow time down and take a breath and listen and look. When people are shooting, when cars are revving, when people are running, those are obvious cues.
Right.
You can't see them if you're so mission focused that you're just on your normal routine, all those horrible words that we hear all the time, and you're just following what your brain does every day. That's where HBPRNA is, pattern recognition and analysis. You're dumber when you're pattern involved in a pattern.
So you brought up a couple good points. I just kind of want to hit first is that now you obviously talk about that's a pretty chaotic situation.
Yep.
You had a homicide / suicide all happen, unfold right in front of you as you're approaching, and that's obviously something law enforcement might have to deal with. But just what's happening now is a lot of people are like, all right, we gotta hey, it's all about situational awareness in this, and now because of these shootings, a lot of people have a reaction. Okay, well, I gotta learn to fight. Right. So it's whether that's personal defense, which I'm not knocking any of this, or I got to get a gun. We got to arm some people in here. So now we're ready when that occurs. And I think they're missing the point of, well, no, it's all the pre-event indicators leading up to that.
Precisely. If
you learn to identify those. So I want to touch on it that you talked about. You mentioned complacency, and it's a huge topic. Right. So why did these things happen? Why did that field training officer with however many years on the job and seen and done all kinds of things, and you, even as a rookie in this specific situation, you had that complacency set in, and it's kind of, well, what is complacency? Why do we get that way? What happens?
Because we're going right back to the brain, by the way. And if anybody's been to the class, they know that's where it starts and ends.
Yep.
Your amygdala and many of the same places that are attacked by your catecholamines and your neurochemical cocktails are not only sensing danger constantly sampling your environment for you, but remember, we've outgrown our primitive triggers, therefore we don't pay attention to our primitive signatures. Sometimes the signals our brain is sending us are the same many times conduits for our arousal. So for example, to get Ugluk out of the cave to go up and go get something to eat, he had to be able to smell and hear something that he said, oh, that's a rabbit. And I know if I put a rabbit in a pot with a rock and a potato, that's really good for me, okay? So those smells. Now, Ugluk, as he was walking outside of that cave, he also looked and he saw a pile of bones and he smelled decay. Why do human beings decay and have an odoriferous decay? So blowflies can find you immediately and start breaking down your body because you got to go back to nature. So when you walk by that cave and you said, wow, that's a disgusting smell, There's certain parts of the body that smell in a horrible way because you're supposed to stay away from them. And the idea that just olfactory senses could trigger you to go towards something or stay away from something or tell that something's infected by a look or a feel or a taste or a smell, those are brilliant things. The second chance that you get when you're trying something in your environment and it makes you violently ill so you won't try it again, that's training your brain to have file folders ready for each one of those. Ooh, don't know about that red plant. That's the one that got me sick last time. But that yellow one over there, that was pretty good. And we can eat it when it's raw or when it's cooked. Those type of things that we don't do anymore because we have more technology at our fingertips than NASA astronauts did on the first moon launch. And so we're so focused internally that we're not paying attention to these external voices and stimuli and arousal factors that we should be sampling. And God, Buddha, Vishnu, Allah, the lava lamp in your room is constantly bombarding you with clues to what's about to occur. And if we pay attention to those clues, life is easy, man. We'll have a good time. Hey, you might step out and get hit by a meteorite that you didn't anticipate.
Right.
But almost everything else is going to be taken care of. But if you follow patterns and you repeat behaviors and you're not tuned in, you're not aware of your surroundings, situational awareness, then what's going to happen is you're going to walk blindly into something and now you're react. I'm all for Krav Maga, baby. Go out there and get your Shotokan training. Go to the range and shoot them up. Do all those other things. But those make you feel good at bang. Yes. What are you doing before the incident? That's why we're talking about up armor in the brain. You train your brain to anticipate these situations. You can avoid them. Most human beings aren't coppers or EMS technicians or soldiers.
Yeah.
Hell, we're vets, and there's not a lot of people that we run into in a normal day that's a veteran, right? So what chance do those people have, other than being sheep, being cannon fodder, if they're not more aware of what they're getting into?
Well, and so that goes back again to the technology and our reliance on it and how we're focused. So we're just distracted, right? So we're distracted, and back to the brain hates divided attention. So a lot of us, and I always like to equate this every time some new thing comes out, whether I see it on LinkedIn or on the news or some little article or some little psychology study that probably, had zero peer review or whatever. But you see even these big major, CEOs of organizations, all these guys talking about it, going like, look, like, how do you accomplish so much in a day? It's like, I do one thing today. Like you look at why do some of these CEOs of these major companies are like, that guy wears the same exact clothes every day, because that's 5 minutes out of his day that he doesn't have to waste thinking about something other than running an organization, right?
And a bandwidth of his attention attending to that he can't afford to use on clothing. He can't afford to. He chooses not to.
Because that brilliant. 5 minutes would cost him $5 million or whatever it is, right? So now and so that plays into the same thing that we're talking about with situational awareness and complacency and divided attention. These are big concepts that we're kind of somewhat right. We're hardwired to set patterns, right? Once you find the easiest way to accomplish what you need to for the day, you're just going to keep doing it that way unless there's some other reason to change.
To conserve calories, your brain immediately chooses the least objectionable option to do because it doesn't want to have to learn new things. It wants to vegetate. Dude, a 30-year life is spent sleeping so your brain can rewire. So anytime that it can gain an advantage by not spending useless calories, it follows the program. You're exactly right, Brian.
And I think that's why we miss a lot of this. But the right. So what's the positive of this though is that we're still all very hardwired to do this, meaning every person has an intuit, right? People like to talk about intuition. Well, and I know when we're in the class, we teach the science of intuition, where there's an actual, here's what's going on when people say, oh, I have a gut feeling, or I had this feeling that something was going to happen.
Do you remember a good friend that used to talk about the sixth sense? There is no damn sixth sense. It's your brain warning you by triggering different things. Hypothalamus, very sensitive to heat, triggers heat. That's a quick warning. You're exactly right.
And so now we're just not used to, we don't exercise those parts of our brain as much anymore, but they're still there. They're just, they got a little dust on them. They're a little rusty, right? We don't know how to articulate it yet because we haven't had to. We're so focused on all, we have so many distractions in our life. Oh, I've got these 90 things I got to get done today. And then people are texting me and I got to post a picture of my kid because it was their first day of school. I got to get it, edit that on Instagram.
Yep.
And that takes me 20 minutes. And I'm so trying to do 3 or 4 or 5 things at once. And, you know, it's what I always laugh when a lot of people put it like in their resumes, or you see stuff like, I'm an excellent multitasker. You're horrible. No one is. No one can multitask well. It's, you can do one, your brain likes doing one thing. It only has 100% of attention. So if I start juggling more balls, something's got to go, right? And I think that's what leads to that.
But your ecosystem is so fragile that you can't address your ecosystem and say, well, something is less important, or something is getting less of my attention. So you think you're juggling them. You think you're doing great. The guy driving behind you goes, holy crap, this guy's going to kill somebody.
Yeah,
you know, so everybody else sees it, but you don't see it.
Yeah, well, I mean, your ego is very, very fragile. Mine's less, just through years of emotional
being with me
from you. So I don't have one anymore.
It's been part of the training, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. At some point, am I supposed to have a breakthrough? Because my therapist says
it's called breakdown. Actually.
Exactly. That's what it is. But we forget about that stuff. So I always like it too. So we've got, the 7-year-old just started 2nd grade. And so she'd always want to have a phone because she sees everyone with phones. So it's like, all right, well, you're too young. Obviously, you're not going to have a phone, but there's this is not something you're going to stop, right? She's eventually going to have one. So what we did, Kaylee gave her her old phone that she doesn't have anymore, that has nothing on it. It can't make phone calls, but it can connect to the Wi-Fi, so she can text us and take pictures, right? So that's all she can do on it. So she just likes having it, but one right now, because she's too young, doesn't leave the house. It's only for when she's inside the house. But what it is, we're now taking that as an opportunity to train her. Hey, this is how you use a phone. This is when you use it. There are no phones at the kitchen table. When you're outside, you're not walking around on it, right? You only use it when and you just build in literally a training program with the 7-year-old.
Exactly.
So now we were eating dinner the other night, and I set my phone down just to take it out of my pocket because I just walked in the door, and she picked it up, moved. She's like, no phones at the table. And I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. So if you start it young, I think with that process of avoiding that complacency and just playing those little what if games like you were talking about, it builds on the file folders of someone.
When we were on the East Coast and we went in to train the group, Dev grew, what some humans call SEAL Team 6. First thing was a cardboard box. Every phone goes into the cardboard box.
Yeah.
If we need you, we'll come into training and get you. Because this is more important. So I've allocated this much time, and I'm going to take that much time. So you just said something that I think will be a good idea to let's do a limited objective experiment. Let's make sure that today, we're just talking about situation awareness today, and it's such a broad topic. I'm sure we're going to have future pods on it, but let's just talk something our listeners can do today. So I'll give it 2, one solo and one group event. So solo event. As you're walking around, whether you're shopping, whether you're driving, wherever you are, articulate everything. And do this for a couple of days. It's not going to work if you just do it for an hour. So plan in a week that these 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to articulate everything I do. So visualize now I'm walking into City Market, or I'm going to the local shopping center, and I'm going to say, okay, there's a parking spot. The parking spot's too close to the entrance and exit. Why don't I want to park there? Because that's exactly where a bomb would be, or where a guy that's robbing the place would unload. So I don't want to be right up front. I don't want to be furthest away, because if I'm way over there, that's near an alley. This is the talk that you're going to have while you're driving and finding the right parking space. Then when you get out of the car, guy coming at me, blue shirt, looks fine, no hands by the waist. Hey, there's a guy putting his cart back over there, doesn't even see me. 2 women coming out with a cooler, wonder what's in the cooler. While you're going through your environment, see how many indices that you can pick out, how many different colors and different smells and things. What you're doing is you're triggering the parts of your brain that have gone dormant over time, that have been retarded by all this other incoming fluff for the electronic equipment that we have. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a more laser focus of what's in your baseline. Now, try that, and you'll be calling me and going, wow, that really works. Yeah, it really works, because what you're doing is you're being more aware, and awareness, not hypervigilance, is the key. So what's the group exercise? Going out with your friends or going out with your family. Assign different roles. Brian, You are the only person that's allowed to get on their phone in case of an emergency, take photos,
Yeah.
do all that other stuff. You're phone guy. I'm driver guy. Okay. So, Bill, you're behind Brian. Something happens to Brian, you take that over. Jimmy, you're behind me. Something happens to me, you take over the driving. Now, Jimmy, you're going to be the one that deals with all the doors, every door, entrance, exit, all that other stuff. You're going lead. Billy, you're riding drag. You're always going to be behind us, and you're going to be 5-10 feet at our 6, and you're going to be up and out. That means you, Bobby, you're down and in. You're actually meeting and greeting and standing in front of us. And you're going, wow, isn't that sort of like creating your own team, your entourage? Yes.
Yep.
Do that with your family. Do that with little kids that are in your group when you're going to Dairy Queen. One, it's fun as hell. The second thing is you'll be amazed at how much you see, and you're going to go back and sit down and go, wow, all those things happen. Dude, I don't need to go to movies. I have life. Life is just constantly showing the wonderful things, and I'm out there with the shoe phone recording all of it. Brian, have our listeners, have our viewers just try those 2 limited objective experiments 1 or 2 times this week and see how it improves their essay of their surrounding, how it improves the granularity of their baseline, how it improves the fidelity of their critical thinking.
No, and those are all great examples you can do with anyone. I mean, I love pointing that stuff out. I you know, some people are naturally pick up on, I picked up on a weird vibe for someone, you know, McKaylee's always good at that. And I have to sit there, well, now you have to articulate it. Well, this is what it means. And then they always want to jump to some, well, it probably means this. You don't know that. Here's what you can prove. Here's what you can show. But simple things like that. Like I love the grocery store example. It was hilarious. We're walking with Kaylee and Harper, and we're going in, and there's, you know, a guy walking out with a shopping cart. All right. And so I said, hey, come here real quick. Hey, what's up with this guy? I'm like, what? Nothing. I don't know. He looks kind of like, maybe he's a bum or something like that. You notice anything odd? No, what? He's walking out of a grocery store with a shopping cart that is completely empty. No one walks out of the grocery store with an empty shopping cart.
Right.
You'll go in with one.
So now the panacea list come up. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's refilling his water for his home purification system. The
he's got to go
out in the car. He's got a bunch of recycled. Now, if he starts coming back in with a suitcase, that doesn't mesh, and now all of a sudden you go, hey, listen, we've got an Ariana Grande concert situation approaching. That's how easy critical thinking
it really is
when you increase your situation awareness even a little bit. And I think that's what I'm challenging, Brian. I think on this broadcast, I'm challenging every one of our viewers or listeners to increase their essay just a little bit. We don't have to just magnify it huge. That'll come with time. Just increase it a little bit this week and see how much more you see. Another advocate of talking, when Shell and I are walking around constantly, I'm going dog guy at my 6.
Yeah.
And she'll be looking right away. So we 12, 3, 6, 9.
Yeah.
The other thing is make it simple, like blue shirt's mission focus. And then she'll look and she'll go copy. I know that she heard what I was saying. Then we'll orient for a second from a position to cover, and we'll say, and we've turned it into a game. It's a fun game.
Yes.
We're safe and safer, you know, instead of dumb and dumber. And we like moving through our environment that way. We're much more efficient as a team than we are singularly. And guess what? We luckily, knock on everything holy, haven't got into a bad situation that we didn't anticipate and have multiple ways out of.
And it comes up with back the kind of term you used a little while ago. It's just, you know, if you're looking down and in, you've got the kids or you've got whatever you're focused on, someone in that group has got to be looking up and out. So one person looks down and in, one person looks up and out. It can be that simple, you know? So it's just, it's really just dividing that workload, right? So you don't have that divided attention.
Did a guy in a bus, did a guy in a shuttle.
Oh yeah. That was great.
Walk on. And just with enough mission focus and having just a little bit of social camouflage, took everybody for a ride. Yeah. And then at the end, even the driver said, wow, the guy was so sure of himself, we let it happen.
He gets on the bus.
Get fooled.
What do you say? Hey, you guys got to get off the bus. I got to take this. People just started getting up and getting off. Exactly. And the guy, he bus jacked them from the airport, which
there was another one on Instagram. I don't do Instagram, but Nico and Sean both said, hey, have you seen this? Where the hooded figures do the whatever they call it, flash mob, and go in and take everybody's iPads and phones and stuff and get back out into a car and drive off. Just happened. And it's all over the internet. Everybody's saying, look, what I say is take a look at the background. There's people shopping that don't know a robbery is in progress, and they're steps away from the robbery in progress.
Yeah.
Why? Lack of essay, man. You're so in the moment, like you said, which was good, but you're so down and in that you're not up and out. So if you're alone, You have to consider all of those before I take the step out the door. Where's my keys? Where's my glasses? Okay, everything looks good. Here I go. That extra nanosecond, that few seconds that you take in your day is going to give you the gift of time and distance. And you need it. You really need it.
And that's again what we talk about a lot, but that gift of time and distance, right? The more time you have to figure out a situation, the farther away you are from it, the more likely you are going to avoid a possibly dangerous situation. The more likely you're gonna make it out alive if it is a serious
So
situation.
how do they measure humans, Brian? You're so spot on right there, and it just the epiphany with the train horn comes through because your box moved. The idea is this:
the
okay,
wind blow.
the top Olympic athletes, the top shooters in all the different categories, they compete for times, swim nanoseconds,
Yep.
runners nanoseconds. Why? Because the gift of time and distance is what separates the most highly trained people in all of these events. When you think about it, the idea of knowing what's about to happen, if you're an MMA fighter, predictive analysis
Right.
is how you undermine the technique
Yes.
of an opponent. You look at that and you size up, okay, this is where they're weak, and then you exploit that. So why wouldn't you do that in your daily life? One, it's fun. Two, it doesn't burn a lot more calories. Three, your awareness level is going to raise, and that's going to make you a harder target. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
It's also fun because you are going to see so much more, and you are going to laugh so much more at how idiotic people can be, especially in just basic situations where
Funny,
people are busy.
random.
Oh, it's so you see so
ironic.
much more you see so much more interaction. You'll be at the grocery store laughing at people asking the dumbest questions, walking around clueless. It makes you a better driver. You can start identifying those things. Okay, this guy he's gonna run right up to everyone and then slam on the brakes every single time because they're not paying attention. So you know what? I'm gonna take this lane, right, where I can maneuver a little bit easier. I have an out. Hey, I know this guy.
You're talking about having fun, but I'm saying, Brian, I'm admonishing you by saying just having fun and poking fun at people. What you just talked about is predictive analysis that avoids road rage incident.
Yes.
So the benefit is it's fun. You're having a good time while you're doing this stuff, and you're not getting stressed out about it because you knew it was coming. Shocks and surprise, not fun, not a good time. You're exactly right.
Yeah, no, and then that goes into there's a number of different. I know we've given plenty of examples of different limited objective experiments. The Walmart parking lot one is great. The one you were just talking about is great. But these are just simple things that anyone can do, and that's kind of now there's to get to that next level to get up to all right. How do I really conduct predictive analysis in this situation? Now that's going to take a little bit more training because you got to learn all right, how do I articulate what it is that I'm seeing? Because I'm picking up on all this stuff. And what a lot of people are looking for, of course, naturally, we're looking for simple answers, right? So whether that's a school or a church, it's like, all right, well,
I want to drop on my tongue to make me stronger, smarter, faster, harder to kill.
Well, that or it's this here, man. Just write it down on this sheet of paper. Just write it down. What are the 10 things I need to look for? And you're going, well, that's not how it works.
Yeah, where's my app? All I need is an app for it. The app will tell me what to do.
Well, and that's what I always give because there's one of the things the FBI is incredible at is collecting and analyzing data, right?
Yep.
They go through crime statistics. They have researchers. They just have mountains and mountains of information that every year they'll publish stuff and come out like, all right, here are the trends we're seeing. Here's some things that are correlated with these incidents, right? Here's the 10 things. And then people want to go, all right, so I just look for these 10 things. It's like, no. Those each one of those indicators may be something, but it's not about here's what to look for. It's just everything we've been talking about, which is here's how to look. Because just like that guy that I saw walking out of the grocery store with an empty shopping cart, okay, well, I noticed that's an anomaly in my baseline, so I have to play the what if game, or what is he likely going to do next? There's only a certain amount. Does he go back to a vehicle and, like you said, he's got to grab something that he's returning to that store?
Yep.
Does he go back to the vehicle and start loading that cart up with weapons and
it's an old homeless Pete. He's just taking it. That's his new vehicle.
And guess what it is?
To do that.
And guess what it is out here? And that's exactly what it was. It was homeless Pete. I got a brand new shopping cart. He went over to the back part of the parking lot where he had all the stuff next to the bushes, threw his stuff in there, and then pushed on down the street, right down Oceanside Boulevard.
It's so true. Shelley and I, we just had an incident just a couple of days ago, and we were trying to explain the absurdity to the person that was inside the store. So we witness, and you do it a lot when you're situationally aware. We witness the shoplifting in progress.
Great.
And so Shelly's trying to break it down and analyze it for the guy, and the guy's not catching on. And I stopped him and I said, "Hey, how many people bring a backpack into the store?"
Yeah.
And he's going, "I don't get it. I don't get it." Well, at this store, okay, the guy's coming in with an empty backpack and he's leaving looking like a Sherpa. You get what I'm trying to say? He's got all this other stuff on there. And he passes by the cash registers. You might have a problem, Houston. But guess what? If you're not looking for it, you're not. And look, not everybody's wrong, and not everything is going to turn out to be a bad thing. As a matter of fact, very few people are trying to kill you or victimize you. But guess what? You won't be the victim if you just tune into that frequency. And that's all we're advocating. We're advocating being more aware, giving yourself the gift of time and distance, giving yourself the tactical and technical advantage in every situation. What's wrong with that?
Right. And that's it. Just like
and it's free.
And well, that's why with all these situations you brought up, other than that first one when you're a rookie police officer, all these other situations, these are just everyday occurrences. So,
Yep.
So you don't, if you don't have to be a human behavior profiler. You just have to be aware of your surroundings and take all this in and attribute value to things, come up with most likely, most dangerous course of action for everything that you see. Because once you start doing it at every single, place you go to, every person you interact with, you just get better and better at it over time. And then when it is that dangerous situation, you're going to know it. You're going to know it so quickly. Your brain's going to tell you before your prefrontal cortex actually processes it, and you have a conscious thought about it. That's the beauty of it. Once that light switch goes on, now instead of you
can't turn it off.
Yeah. Once, instead of you trying to proactively look in your environment, that unconscious awareness is just running in the background like that operating system, and it goes, nope,
yes, sir,
right there. And then you're oriented, paying attention to something before you even realize.
That's the definition that you were looking for at the beginning of this broadcast. And I'll finish my comment.
Did I define my own question?
You did.
Damn, I think it's the first time.
It was very good. Yeah. Let me finish by saying this, Brian. The reason I brought that situation up of being in that driveway, there was nothing we could have done to stop the demise of that female,
right,
or the suicide of her husband. But we could have easily been the next victims.
You could have been killed.
We could have been killed. And it was just the luck of the draw that day because we did not have the advantage. We were both even, and it just happened to be her that day because he could have said, not today, not going to jail, and killed us. And there was nothing we could have done about it because we gave up the time distance gap. All we're trying to say is increasing your essay allows you to have a second chance.
No, and that happens, not to go down the rabbit hole of law enforcement or bash them at all, but that happens all the time to law enforcement, where you'll see those situations where maybe that officer comes out just fine and they go, damn, that training kicked in, you really did well on that, and you're like, wait a minute, like you almost died there.
You bungled it horribly. And the only thing that came out was the street guide that came down and saved you.
Yeah.
But again, your ego system won't let you see your failures.
No. And if I wish I still had mine, but because everything I do.
Trust me, there's a bunch I could point out right now.
So that, like I always like to describe as being your emotional punching bag is just worn me down over the years.
And you're a speed bag, though. See, that's why you and I are still together, because like Collier's the heavy bag.
He's the heavy bag. You got tired of hitting him. With me, you could just keep going and going and going and going because it's just little jabs. Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. That's a perfect analogy right there. I'll have to.
Now I'm going to hear Collier falling in 15 minutes. Oh, why did you pick on me?
Yeah, Blackheart's going to get pissed at that.
But the heavy bag.
So, well, I think that's kind of a pretty good spot to kind of wrap it up. And what we were talking about with situational awareness is just being observant in your environment.
There's more to come. We'll have more, and we'll add on to this as we flesh it out a little bit. But don't underscore or don't fail to underscore the importance of training, Brian. I know you bring it up every time, but there's people out there that still think, hey, I got this. I can get an app, watch a pod, and I'll be in. Hey, pod's just to get your head straight now. Get thee to training.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point to end on is just keep doing it every day until it becomes an operating system running in the background.
Precisely.
And that will get you to a true level of situational awareness, where you
Absolutely.
can observe your environment and be safer. Well, I think that's probably a good point to end this one on. I know there's a lot of talk about this topic out there, and I might be a little biased, but I think we got a pretty good program. It's a lot of other people have also thought it was a good program, to the tune of it becoming institutionalized in several, Department of Defense organizations, like the Marine Corps and the Army. So, like,
Navy's using it.
yeah, well, but
we've got a whole bunch of,
yeah,
traction inside of
and
whether it's ICE or TSA.
everywhere else that we've been, and people get it. I just think we have the best system of articulating exactly what it is and how to do it, and getting people better at it.
We're a little rough around the edges, but we're learning too, folks. But we're willing to share that knowledge with you.
Yeah, I've cleaned myself up quite a bit over the years, that's for sure. So if that's what you mean by rough around the edges, but
you keep changing your room. I've always had the same background. And my thing is now you're getting into a smaller and smaller. I think you're like in one of those wardrobe where you change clothes at like a J.C. Penney, and they just happen to have a dry erase board. Where are you today?
It starts with me and McKaylee sharing a home office. Then it goes to, well, why don't we move it up here? Well, why don't you take that corner over there? I had to wait till she was gone, and because my desk was over here facing the wall in this steamy corner of the third floor, and then I turned the desk around. She came up here one time. She said, "Did you turn your desk around? Well, what was wrong with where it was?"
But see, it's just like with me and Shelly. The real work, McKaylee's doing she's making the money.
Oh God,
Shelly's buttering the bread. So all of this extra stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
By the way, we want to introduce a new segment, Brian.
So
I'm excited about it.
Let's
Brian's
go ahead.
Not very excited about it.
So we'll call these Remo's reviews, I guess we'll call it. I think that works. And then
this one's a book review, but I want to do movie reviews.
We should
training tape reviews, all that other stuff.
We'll keep those separate. For everyone listening right now, we'll continue this on here, but then we'll also separate it on the YouTube
Collier
channel.
calling, by the way.
Of course it is. So
well, set me up, Brian. Give me the intro.
So I'll go ahead and bring up what we have right here, and Greg, then you can kind of talk us through it. So here we are, white screen with Remo's book review.
So in future episodes, if this catches on, and the only way we're going to know if it catches on is if you viewers and listeners are going to hit up Brian and go, yeah, we like this. If not, then it'll be One with the Desert, if you know what I'm saying. So today, the book that I want to review, slide please, is a new book out from Chaos Actual. So everybody knows our hero, Jim Mattis. And the actual title of the book is Call Sign Chaos, Learning to Lead.
Well, I think it's funny, real quick, that he had to call it that because everyone, when we became Secretary of Defense and the press found out who this guy was, they started calling him Mad Dog, which has never been, his call sign was always Chaos.
Exactly.
When that
Chaos
came out,
Actual. Well, at the IIT, the entire idea of the IIT is the chaos. The first two letters of that's where Combat Hunter came from. Yeah. So this guy has done it all, and he's been there. And Chuck Norris is his valet. I absolutely love the book, and you're going to have a great time reading the book. But I just want to warn you a little bit. Slide, please. First thing is that Call Sign Chaos Actual, wrote a book that was called Learning to Bleed, but he wrote it under one of his vast pseudonyms. Slide, please. You'll notice that Mattis is also what the Austrians and Germans called Krampus, and he takes the children around Christmas. So with that warning, if you're going to order the book on Amazon today, which I highly recommend the book, slide please, Brian, I've come up with just a couple of warnings for you, and there's only three. First warning, you don't read the book reads you. The second warning I think that you should have is if you don't finish the book finishes you. Mattis actually calls you and finds out which chapters that you're on. And if you don't read a chapter fast enough, he's showing up at the house. And then finally, you got to remember that Chaos Actual will randomly show up at one of the readers' homes and quiz you on the chapters, and heaven help you if you didn't really read it. So if you're not reading the book, you're using it as a doorstop, I say pass it on. You'd rather sit with no drawers on an IED than mess with this book. Highly recommend it. Think it's good. I give it a. I don't know what Remo would give it.
What would you, like
we got to
how
give the
many rules
functional
of
field of
thumb?
view.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've got to give the Remo rule of thumb up.
The rule of thumb would be, I guess you can only give a thumbs up or nothing. I guess I don't know.
And because
how
Jim Mattis has an incredible sense of humor, I won't be with you next week during the podcast. So. Exactly.
Greg got summoned. You're gonna have now the
yes,
Black
sir.
Suburbans
yes, sir. I knew
are
it wasn't
closing
funny.
in. They're closing into Rogue Manor West right now. Going, what do you no stories from back in the day from Chaos Actual.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I like that. That's a good first start to the.
Hey, listen. Anybody else that's going to read that book, you know how they came out with the Norris has a fist in his beard and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. If you're clever, write what that book means to you in that same manner to Marin, and we'll put it on the air next time.
That's perfect. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. Everyone stay tuned. There's more. Always go to the website, arcadiacognerati.com. Follow us on Facebook at HBPRA. Go to the Left of Greg YouTube channel. You can watch these. They're even more exciting to watch in person. You get to look at Greg's beautiful face.
Camera adds 20 pounds or 50 or 80.
Something. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Ya.
And stay tuned for more. Don't forget, training changes behavior.